Alright, welcome back everyone to Jface Games. Today we are looking at the game Dragonbane, and what we are doing is we're analyzing games to see what they do, rules-wise, and what we might like to potentially add to our own RPGs or our own house rules that we have. So I have a little template here. This is my first time using this template, and I'm going to kind of analyze this game and go through the actual PDF with this template in mind. Now, I'll edit it to speed it up. So, Dragonbane. Now, I've already kind of gone through this slightly, so this isn't 100% fresh for me. But the idea of the resolution system is a roll-under game. Roll-under game. And it's a d20 based. So this means that you're going to be rolling a d20. You're going to have certain stats. Those stats, the higher the stat, the better. So just like if you were playing 5e, if you have a 16 strength, that's really good. But in this game, what you'd be doing is you'd be rolling a d20 and trying to get under 16. That would be the idea, right? So you're not using any pluses that come with the stat. All right, so we have a roll under system, and there's going to be ways that you're going to be able to enhance or change this dice roll, but we'll get to that eventually. So let's get straight into class design, because class design is what I really like. And the artwork in this game is really nice. I really like some of this artwork that they have in here. So class design starts with your kin. So it's not ancestry race, it's kin. And it has a nice little table here for what to expect in terms of like building out your class. And all throughout this book, they have these randomizers. So you don't have to overthink anything. You can just randomize what kin you're going to be and then randomize your name, etc. So pretty much the only things that kin, your sort of race ancestry kin, gives you is it gives you some sort of ability, right? And so already off the top of this, off the bat, is that this just gives ability and flavor. That's it, right? And abilities in this game are associated with willpower points. So there's some sort of currency already we can see, and these abilities are going to give you some sort of mechanical benefit to skills, or let's see what else they have. Yeah, so it's pretty much like you're rolling for evasion, you're trying to do a skill check, you're trying to attack someone, or you're trying to remove some damage from you, etc. So it looks like you're going to get one ability, unless you're the Mallards, which I've never seen this in a game before as a ancestry, and that's hilarious. Unless you're a Mallard, you get two different abilities. So you have abilities. So your kin gives you your ability, and it gives you some form of. We know that there is a resource, and so we can put under our sort of like resource management that one of our resource managements for action pools, we have willpower, right? So that's one of the things we're going to have to be managing as a player. Next thing you choose is your profession. Profession in this game is your class. Okay, so you now have a profession, and they've got some fun ones. They have some interesting ones that, artisan in the past you would think of as a background, and you would think as something like a fighter as a class, but in this game, they're all just your profession. So you have your artisan, you have your bard, you have your fighter, etc. So let's look at the fighter real quick. So pretty much what this is going to tell you is that you have a key stat. So it's not telling you that you get any bonuses to stats. You just have a key stat. You might have some random gear that you get to choose. You might have a random nickname. That's fun. But you have an ability. So now we have this thing. Here's an ability. So your class gives you an ability. And we already know that those abilities are associated with willpower, and they give you some ability. You also are going to get skills, access to skills. And here are a bunch of skills, and it looks like each weapon is a skill. So each weapon type or group is a skill. So that's something they do differently in here, as opposed to like D&D does martial weapons, etc. I think that Pathfinder 2e separates them into sort of like blunt weapons, but I don't think they like blunt and piercing, but I'm not well versed in that. All right, so you have all of this, and this takes you down to what's next. You have your age. So age matters in this game, depending on if you're young or older. You're going to have more skills or less skills, and you might have abilities. So this is our first ability bumps, right? So that's kind of cool. We'll put this in here. We'll put age matters, and we're going to say gives skills and bonuses to attributes. And so now finally we get into the attributes. So attributes here This is like your standard OSR sort of array, except for uses agility instead of dexterity. Otherwise, the classic 6, right? Classic 6 stats: strength, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. It looks like you're going to do a 46 roll and take the... looks like what they do is they do a straight down, so OSR style, where I'm going to roll 46, take 3, 46, drop 1, 46, drop 1, 46, drop 1, 46, drop 1, 46, drop 1. And then I can switch to after the fact, right? And so I can then swap and assign 2 different ones, I believe. And then I'm going to get my bonuses for my age, potentially. Okay, cool. So there are some movement differences if you're a, depending on how old you are and depending on what class you are. So we know that the combat-wise, this is hex-based, right? Or movement-based, at least. You know, movement-based distances. Otherwise, it wouldn't have that specific of a distance. Your strength and agility will give you bonus damage. That's kind of fun. So whatever your damage is, if your strength is 13 to 16, you get a plus D4 damage. That's kind of cool. So attributes give bonus damage dice to weapons. Now you have hit points. Okay, so this is classic hit points. Hit points are determined by your constitution. So hit points. And willpower points, which we talked about willpower, that's based on your wisdom. Okay. Equal to your will score, your wisdom score. I think it was wisdom, yeah. How do skills work? Skills based on... So every skill in the game is based on an attribute. So every skill is going to be tied to your strength, con, wisdom, those things. And depending on what that attribute is, will give you a base chance, right? So remember, this is a roll under game. So if you have a 13 to 15 skill, you have to get a 6 or lower. That's hard. That's a 25%, I'm sorry, that's... you do the math on that real quick. Each point up is worth 5, so it's 30% chance of success. Not very good. But it looks like you will be, in addition to the base, you can train in certain skills. 8, 10, or 12, depending on your age. So that's when your age matters. And your skill is equal to twice your base. Okay, so this is how you get... So if you have a 15 strength and you're trained in axes, then that becomes a 12 that you're trying to roll under. So that's a 60% chance. Pretty good. Secondary skills. Beyond that, you do have secondary skills. Okay, this is only for such as schools of magic and stuff. Okay. So that's how you get your base skills. And I'm going to guess that there are certain ways that... Or maybe there's not, but I would think there's certain ways of trying to get these even higher, right? Whether it's equipment or something else. All right, now we have heroic abilities. So skills are, what did we learn there? We learned that based on your attributes linked to skills determines your rating, double the rating if you are trained in it. And that's based on profession. Okay, that's pretty cool. So then you have heroic abilities, and this I think is getting into sort of advancement. So we know that heroic abilities are things that you are going to use your willpower to activate and use. We don't know how willpower you get it back. We don't have the rest. This is getting into gear. Gear looks like you have some really cool charts again. You buy stuff with money. There's an encumbrance thing. So this thing doesn't really excite me, so I'm not going to go really into that. Appearance charts, that's kind of cool. All right, experience. This is how you're going to advance. And so this is cool because what this shows is it's not, your advancement is not based on XP for killing monsters, based on things you accomplish, right? So it looks like the way you accomplish things is you have a conversation with your GM afterwards. Did you participate in the game? Did you explore any new locations? Did you defeat one or more dangerous adversaries? Did you overcome an obstacle without using force? And did you give in to one of your weaknesses? Each time you can say yes to that, you are going to get some form of advancement mark, right? On top of that, you will also get an advancement mark for rolling either a critical success, what they call dragons, I think, or a demon, a 1. So whenever you roll a 1 or a 20 with a certain skill, you get to mark a little mark next to it. And then you also have these advancement marks you get for doing these different things. This then gives you the chance to potentially skill up. And the way you skill up is that you would then roll your skill check, and if you get over it, this is the only time that rolling over is better, where if you roll over it, you can then add 1 to it, right? So if my skill in knives is a 12, and I've got a tick next to it that's showing that I have a potential for advancement at the end of the session, I think it's session, I get to roll, and if I get above that 12, it now becomes a 13. And that makes sense because as you get better at a skill, it becomes harder to become even better. So if I've got an 18 skill, it's very hard to advance in it. So that's really neat. I think that's really cool. So in essence, you're going to get XP points that allow you to test. Oh, I better scroll down a little bit. Test your skills. Testing and succeeding will result in experience, right? Or improvement in that skill. That's cool. I like that a lot. That's the coolest thing I've seen so far. Or you can find a teacher. So if you can find a teacher, they can help you, and I think you can spend some sort of marks. That's nice. There's probably a limit to the amount of ticks you can have next to different skills, but that's probably on your character sheet. So now here's your skills list, and I think that they have a pretty good... So dragons are, if you roll out... So a dragon is a 1 in this game. I reversed it, sorry. Because a 1 would always be a success. So dragon's always a success, and it's a success with something awesome. A demon is a failure. That's when you roll a 20, and that is something bad happens. Here's a demon. What else do we got? These are really nice. It's a really nice layout. Boons and Banes are just increasing your dice pool. If you get multiple Banes and Boons, roll an additional d20 for each Bane and Boon. Perfect. So this is traditional... what's the word I'm looking for? Advantage, disadvantage. Nice. I like advantage, disadvantage. It's clean. It's simple. It's fast. Pushing your rolls. So this is cool. So in this game, conditions, and we'll go to conditions. This was something I heard on someone else's channel about the game, and that's what cued me into this game. Is that there is a specific condition for each of the attributes, right? So what this means is that there's only 6 attributes in the game, and there are exactly 6 conditions. And I think that's pretty brilliant, right? Meaning that exhausted is linked to strength, sickly to con, dazed to agility, angry to int, scared to willpower, or wisdom. Is it willpower? I thought it was wisdom, but why did I do W-I-L? Disheartened to charisma. So this is really clean. It's really clever to have 6 conditions that match up with your 6 attributes, because it makes it very easy for someone to understand those things. And so what this is talking about is at any point in time you can push your rolls, which this is, I always love pressure lucks, where a player can, if you fail a skill or an attribute roll, you can choose to push, which means that you make another attempt and the new result applies, whatever it is. And if you have Banes or Boons, you must reroll all dice. And whenever you push yourself, you immediately suffer the condition for whatever it is that you are rolling for. So if it's a skill based on agility, then you're going to be dazed. That's awesome. I think that's great because they know exactly what they're getting into, and they know exactly what skills and what are the attributes or heroic things that it's going to affect. So that's really nice. That's really clean. They have opposing rolls. Great. Here are the core skills. There's a ton of them. I briefly looked through these before, and each one of them is linked to a attribute, which is really nice. And then what I thought was interesting is they take these weapon skills and they really split it out, right? So the weapon skills are really split out amongst all of these different weapon types. Ooh. So you have axes, bows, brawling, crossbows, hammers, and so it's all strength and agility. So you could be a pretty agile fighter of some sort and have a good go of it. And then here we have our heroic abilities. And heroic abilities, pretty much what makes this game really interesting is that when we talked about the abilities of the classes of the professions earlier, they didn't really have like a rogue getting backstabbing, right? Because backstabbing is just a heroic ability, right? So what that means is that maybe the thief had it as a feat because we saw that there was one heroic ability linked to every class because the fighter had something. But what this does is that you as a player have a lot of customization to your character. So not only are you able to try and level up certain skills as you're going, but you have access to all of these heroic abilities that you can then take. You know, you have the one that starts based on your profession or your profession. But after that, you can kind of choose whichever one you want. You just have these requirements of you got to be certain, proficiency or skill level in certain skills, right? Weapons or whatnot. So this is really cool. It gives you a lot of customization. I don't know how quickly you're going to gain these as you're playing, but it's really nice to have that customization. All right, so now let's get a little bit more into combat here. How do they do this? This is where I'm not sure how things go. Initiative is a card. They have a card deck that comes with the game, or I'm sure you could use your own card deck. And there's a drawing of cards, I believe, every turn. So they do a deck card draw every round, I guess, every round. I don't know how fast that is. So maybe it's fast. Maybe it's super fast if you're playing at the table and you're able to, dish those out. But I don't know. That always I like games. I think that Runehammer and the idea of just going around the table is starting to appeal to me more and more, especially the more I GM overall. They have a surprise round, great. When it comes to action, so here's your action economy. Your action economy is pretty much you have a move and an action. Okay, perfect. One move and one action. Beautiful. And they have a huge list of actions here, which could be a melee attack, a pair, both melee and ranged. Interesting. So does this constitute, you might take your whole turn parrying or your whole turn dodging? Oh, I wonder how fast turns are then. I could see, I am one who always thinks that you should at least always get an attack of some sort, even if it's a little attack, just because, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't played at a good hardcore OSR style game where you might spend your turn just trying to survive. I've done it with a monk in 5e before, that's for sure. But, so I don't know, that's interesting. There's some really cool actions in here. You might rest and try and get back some willpower so you can pull off some actions. So you can kind of rest in round. So these willpowers must go down pretty quickly. There might be a heroic action that allows you to do something like parry and dodge while attacking. So maybe that's, if you want to be able to do that, you got to specialize. You break down doors. That's always fun. Let's peek up there real quick. I'm going to peek up here because it would be something like, let's see what kind of names we have here. We have Master Chef. Nope, probably not. Iron Fist. Lightning Fast. That's drawing multiple cards. I don't see anything. Fast Footwork. You may attempt to dodge an attack without consuming your action for the round. There you go. The bonus. So they do have ways to get into it. So evasion is a skill that you can have. And if you're good at evading, then you might be able to get Fast Footwork. And so now you're spending willpower to potentially do a dodge while also getting your attack. Awesome. Okay. That's cool to me. That's now getting into the idea of, yeah, if I want to be in there and I want to be an agility guy, I want to, be able to do cool stuff. Nice. I like it. That's saved a little bit of that for me. That still has that optionality, right? So we've got movement. There's a ton of different movements: standing, crouching, leaping. So this is where I think it's interesting in terms of modifying Modifications to resolutions. This is Banes and Boons. Right? So advantage system. Attack mechanic. I think that thus far we're just finding that you're rolling your skill check. We haven't seen what happens in terms of like how the AC of the enemy does anything. Might not have an AC. I don't know. But now we're getting into, there's a lot. This is where I would say nuance of a game, where you can see here in movement, you have different types of movements: dashing, standing, crouching, leaping. So this makes it more tactical to me, right? So now you have terrain, you have cramped, rough, dim lit. So environment matters, right? Cramped, rough, dim lighting, all of these things matter. It's going to be 5-foot squares, etc. But it looks like it's all pretty quick in terms of, oh, you just get a Bane. Oh, you are crowded, so you can't use all the melee weapons except piercing weapons. So it's ways of giving Banes to things. So it all goes back to that Banes and Boons. So at least it's not like +1 this, -1 this, -4 this, -3 this. You know, do I have partial cover versus full cover? Is it +2 versus +5? You know, yada, yada, yada. So it's nice to see that it doesn't have that aspect to it. But they put it in there that it matters. Now, I think some games will just say the DM just decides, like kind of on the fly, right? And so it either works, you know. To attack someone immediately, you generally must be within 2 meters on the grid. You need to be positioned when attacking in combat. You use your skill that covers that type of weapon. Okay. So we don't see anything about AC, so I think if you succeed at your skill, you hit them. Attack hits, you do damage, weapon damage, and then you get a bonus damage from your agility or strength. You have up to 3 weapons at hand. Okay. Cool. Critical hits. Prone, so once again, prone matters. But the nice thing is you just get a boon, and you do a little more damage. Okay, cool. Critical hits. Dragons. This means you roll dragon, period. Roll double the amount of dice. Okay, so you do double damage, and it's double everything. You can immediately perform a second attack against another enemy. That's awesome. Nice. That's cool. That's cool. Critical equals 2 times damage and another plus extra attack against another target. That's awesome. That's cool. Armor has no effect against the attack as it finds again. Oh, so armor does matter. So armor must be an absorbing of damage. So it must be that you can parry. So here's parrying. And parrying all kinds of stuff. Blah, 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 blah. Shield. You parry with it. Weapon, skills. Okay, durability. If you parry, succeeds. Attack hits your weapon or shield. You suffer no damage. Okay, so you can parry and it's a reaction. It breaks initiative order. It replaces your regular... Okay, we already knew that. Oh, okay. So you, in essence, they don't define a reaction as another thing, but they're just saying if you do a reaction, it means you've lost your action for the turn. So it's in essence like a hurried action. But we don't know about... Dodging is sort of the same thing. It's like a reaction on a success. You get to move, though. That's cool. We have special things... Grapple, disarm, etc. Ranged combat, same kind of stuff. You don't get the extra attack, you just do more damage. Parry and dodge. It's hard to parry and dodge. You require a shield if you're going to parry and dodge range stuff. Cool. Damage. Okay, yeah. So damage, armor, defense is parry or dodge. Takes your turn. Unless you have abilities. And then armor is going to absorb stuff, right? Eventually you die, and if you die, you will have an effect. If you can take a severe injury. Okay. We're going to learn about conditions. Conditions are awesome sounding. How do they rest? What does resting do? So we get down here and we go rest. Resting is Lost HP are recovered by resting. There are 3 kinds of resting. Round rest, we already saw that. That's how you can get some quick willpower. A stretch rest and a shift rest? What the hell is that? A round rest is a quick one where you get willpower. A stretch rest is a short rest only lasting 1 stretch at a time. During a stretch rest, you heal D6 hit points and 2d6 hit points if someone else is tending to you. Okay. You also get willpower back, so that's nice. Shift. A shift lasts 1 full shift of time. I don't know what a shift is, but I'm guessing it's kind of like a short rest and long rest. This gets you all your stuff back. Okay, cool. Hazards. Fear matters. Poison. This is interesting because fear is... This sounds like a condition to me, but I guess that it gives you shaken, which is the willpower thing. I bet I bet they put things like that, like disease probably is affecting your con, so it probably ends up giving you the constitution sickly. So they have other ways of defining those things. So that's kind of nice. So it's not just the DM trying to figure out, well, what the hell does daze mean? It's okay if they get concussed or something, then that means they have the daze condition on them. Daze condition means that you now have Banes with agility. Perfect. That's clean, right? Magic. Oh my gosh, we've done all this so far. Health and dying, that's just hit 0. Hit 0 HP equals lasting issue or dead, whatever, because I think you did saving throws. Cool. Schools of magic. Animism, elementalism, mentalism. That's nice. General. I'm a generalist. I like that. I like those just having 4, and they're very simple. Okay, so skimming through this, what it sounds like is that you have prepared spells. So every caster has prepared spells like a wizard. You have ranks of spells, just like spell levels. You do have some spells that are like cantrips. They're called magic tricks, and they do not too much, but you can cast them all you want, whereas the other ones, they burn out like spell slots. And it looks like there are power levels, meaning that when you cast a spell, it costs, depending on the level, which is 1 to 3, it costs 2 willpower per level. So if you're casting a spell that is power level 3, that means you're going to burn 6 willpower. Okay. And if you ever get to 0 willpower, you can no longer do stuff. Some spells can drain willpower from another person. Ooh, so there's a nice little potential mage duel that's happening where you're trying to drain out the other person so they can't cast stuff. And then it goes into sort of your casting times and ranges. Those are kind of things that you're probably intuitive if you've played any sort of tabletop RPG. And then we have magical mishaps, which is if you get a crit fail, you roll on that, sort of like wild magic, right? And you have learning magic. Cool. You can find these grimoires. It's all about finding books and finding new spells. And then we go into the actual spells here. And it has your, what's the rank of the spell? So you have to get to a certain level of some sort. How much power does it cost? What schools of magics do you have? Etc. So, and the willpower is going to be in there, disguiding it. But this is really nice. So those are your, I guess these are your general ones. Here's your animism ones. Here are your elementalism. So really nice stuff. Let's look at, I mean, is there a fireball? Just so we can see it. I guess it would be Firestorm. You need Fire Blast and Whirlwind first. That's cool. You need to have a combination of different spells in order to create this effect. So that's neat. There's you have to speak a word, make a gesture. It takes an action. It's instant, ranked 3. The spell creates a whirling storm of fire around you. All targets suffer 2d6 damage. Each additional power level increases the range by 4 meters, inflicts another d6. So then you can rank it up with those power levels up to 3. Nice. Very cool. So this is a really cool system. I think I'm gonna skip gear for now. I just want to kind of look at if the weapons have any sort of special features to them. So it looks like effects armor has banes. They apply if you're wearing a helmet, you're not as aware. Makes sense. And when it comes to weapons, let's just look at like some classic ones. Longsword, piercing and slashing, 2d8 damage. Oh my gosh, this game, you do some damage. Holy crap, 2d8 damage, and there's some durability, so you could lose. Oh, you have to have a certain strength to be able to use things, and you have durability, so things are going to break. That's cool. 2d8 damage, holy crap. This game you might get knocked out pretty quick. boots, they help you. There's some things that help you. Nice. Musical instruments, trade goods. Perfect. All right, so that's a look at Dragonbane. I think this is a really nice system. Now, I'm going to do something that, this is for me, for those who have been following my systems, I'm going to talk about what I might use from this. I talked about this on the Discord channel a little bit, but if you look at conditions, in my system we have eight conditions, right? You have empowered, that is balanced by weakened. You have bolstered and shaken. You have protected and vulnerable. And you have the last one is focused and confused, right? So these are what would be my negative conditions, and they're paired already with a positive condition, right? So I only have these 8 conditions. After seeing how they did this, it would be really cool to now link these to attributes, right? So if I decided to do attributes in the pressure system, I could have something like physical or strength or might, I guess you could call it, something like physical, might, etc. Have something down here for bolstered and shaken. It could be something like morale or composure, right? Presence, maybe. Maybe presence would be focused. Protected, vulnerable. Maybe this is agility or fortitude or something like that. Like, these are different things, but you could come up with 4 attributes that are linked to these. I thought about how this would maybe play out if I used my current, which are more the roles, where you have, this could be striker, marksman. We're getting a little crazy here. This would be bolstered leadership. Protected would be defender. And then focus confused would be your controller, right? But there was just some discussion on the Discord in terms of, like, it might be really hard to think about how for the GM to tie thematically something like focused and confused with your ability to be a controller in combat, because now it's getting a little abstracted, versus it would be much easier to be able to say focused and confused affecting your intellect, will, wisdom, those kind of things, right? So I get that would be tougher. So, but this is making me wonder if I want to go more attributes, at least for some playtests. So, all right, anyways, that's my look at Dragonbane and me kind of thinking about what I might be able to use from a system like this. I think that the conditions is the one that jumps out to me most. I also like the idea of having 2 resource pools, because I think that if you have a linked resource pool, like currently we have stress as a linked resource pool in the pressure system, is that sometimes you might run into a scenario where someone doesn't want to do something because they're afraid that it's going to make them, hurt, right? Because if it's linked, then by doing things, I'm losing hit points. So now I'm not going to be as risky. So I like there's the potential of having these. I like the idea of the dodge and parry and those combinations with some of those abilities. So if we go up here, I like the abilities. I like the idea that the abilities are classless, and that you can choose them. You get one with your profession, but then you get to choose them as you level. And I really love the advancement system. I know that Shane was talking about some real old school games that have advancement systems like this. This reminds me a little bit of Blade Forged in the Dark, in the terms of I do specific things that I have to accomplish in order to actually get experience, or I want to get Banes and Boons on specific things. So I like that a lot. But this testing for skills is really cool. So hit the bell, hit the subscribe button, and I will talk to you guys soon. Leave some comments.